there's a lot of things that have been said over the years about this presidency. The one thing I think can be said about this presidency is, according to them, they've never made a mistake. Fast and Furious, clearly a Bush program. Benghazi, I don't know what Bush did, but he did it somehow. But in all seriousness, I'm flying back tomorrow morning to Washington. And next Wednesday, we will have a hearing on May 8th, where we're going to have, and it has not been announced, but it will be shortly, we're going to have a man who was the deputy chief of mission, and at the moment that the ambassador was killed, became the charge d'affaires, the acting ambassador. He's a whistleblower. He was on the ground every day from the time Chris Stevens came and chose him as his number 2 until months afterwards. So he was there for every one of those phone calls, for the 7.5 hours in which they begged for relief and weren't given it. He was there for the time in which they launched the internal rescue mission and military personnel were told to get off the plane, that they were not going to be part of it because, quote, we don't want a military presence. So less good people, but less capable of fighting their way in, were on that plane. Now on the other end will be a gentleman who was the head of the counterterrorism unit at the State Department. Now that unit was stood up in 1979, 1980, after our embassy in Tehran was taken. And they said, never again will we not have, or always in the future, to be positive, we will have a counterterrorism unit, and we will be prepared within state to know how to respond. That unit, of course, was used when the embassy in Beirut was blown up, and throughout the years it has been mobilized countless times for actual terrorism attacks on State Department personnel and for the perception that it might be one. It's all that unit does. It's the only reason to have a counterterrorism unit within state is, in fact, to protect the life of State Department individuals. Now, Mark Thompson is a whistleblower because he never got a call. He heard through friends of friends that this had happened. He knew it was terrorism, just as the charge d'affaires will testify that he and everyone else in Libya knew it was terrorism on moment one. There was never any doubt in their mind, and they clearly relayed that to the State Department. The head of the counterterrorism unit is going to testify that he knew it was terrorism, but as part of this normalization that was going on, they certainly were not going to spin him up and have him in that room. There will be people who will defend somehow the indefensible. Wednesday will be a very long day. My wife knows I love to drink coffee, but on those days, I tend to go very, very dry because it's a lot of hours on the dais. We will have people, for some reason, who will find a way to say, not that these brave men and others that will testify are lying, not that we shouldn't have done better, not that mistakes weren't made, and they won't even say that these individuals are wrong when they say Susan Rice clearly had better talking points and they clearly got changed, and there's no security reason, no practical reason to have changed them. As a matter of fact, when the comparison is made between Ambassador Susan Rice's testimony and our witness's testimony, they're going to point out that the president of Libya was on those same Sunday shows, or at least one of them, and he's saying it was a terrorist attack. Well, the U.S. government is saying no, it wasn't. And they're going to say, as any skilled diplomat would say, there is no worse offense than to effectively call the president of a host nation a liar. But that's what we did on those Sunday shows. And I think for the first time, people are going to hear that and see that we insulted the Libyans. So you wonder what all my Democratic friends are going to do on the dais, and I do too. But I'm going to guess that they're going to say the process is flawed, we're being unfair, And perhaps they'll take Jay Carney's lead and they'll say, this is old news. Or perhaps former Secretary Clinton saying, what difference does it make? I think for everyone in this room, everyone in this city, and everyone in America, we know the difference it makes. We left our people and did not mount a proper attempt to rescue them for those 7.5 hours. And as a result, every State Department individual, every person serving us overseas, asks the question now, what happens if it's me? Am I on my own? That's what difference it makes. That's what's going to be different after next Wednesday's hearing.